Marco Polo, a name synonymous with exploration and adventure, occupies a unique position in the annals of history. His journey through Asia in the late 13th century transcends the confines of mere travel, serving as a vital link between disparate worlds. For centuries, scholars, historians, and adventurers have been captivated by his accounts, meticulously chronicled in the travels of Marco Polo. Yet questions about his authenticity persist, adding an aura of mystery to his life and legacy. To understand Marco Polo's significance, one must delve into the historical backdrop of his time and the transformative power of his observations. The world of the 13th century was in flux, a period marked by dynamic change and unprecedented connections. The Mongol Empire, under the leadership of Genghis Khan and later his descendants, had established the largest contiguous empire in history, stretching from Eastern Europe to East Asia. This vast empire created an era of relative stability, known as the Pax Mongolica, facilitating trade, communication, and cultural exchange along the Silk Road. It was in this milieu that Marco Polo embarked on his legendary journey, at a time when the East was largely an enigma to the West. Venice, Marco Polo's birthplace, was a bustling hub of commerce and maritime prowess. By the 13th century, the city-state had emerged as a dominant force in Mediterranean trade, connecting Europe with the riches of the East. Marco was born into a family of merchants, inheriting a legacy of trade and exploration. His father, Niccolo, and uncle, Maffeo, had already ventured to the Mongol Empire before Marco was even born. Their travels planted the seeds for what would become one of the most famous expeditions in history. Marco Polo's journey began when he was just a teenager, accompanying his father and uncle on a mission to fulfill the Mongol Emperor Kublai Khan's request for emissaries from Europe. This journey was no ordinary venture. It required traversing thousands of miles through treacherous terrain, crossing deserts, mountains, and rivers, all while navigating the complexities of political and cultural barriers. The Polo family's determination to answer the Khan's call speaks volumes about their courage and vision. At the heart of Marco Polo's narrative lies his role as a bridge between East and West. For centuries, Europe had viewed Asia through a lens of mysticism and speculation, with tales of exotic riches and mythical creatures dominating the imagination. Marco Polo's accounts challenge these perceptions, offering detailed and pragmatic descriptions of the cultures, technologies, and economies he encountered. His work illuminated a world far more advanced and interconnected than most Europeans could have imagined. Marco Polo's travels coincided with a critical juncture in global history. The Mongol Empire's vast networks of trade and communication created opportunities for knowledge to flow between cultures. Marco's observations of paper money, advanced agricultural techniques, and sophisticated urban planning in Yuan, China introduced ideas that would later influence Europe's own development. In this sense, his journey was not merely a personal odyssey, but a conduit for the transmission of knowledge. Despite the richness of Marco Polo's accounts, skepticism has always surrounded his story. Critics have questioned whether he truly visited all the places he described, pointing to discrepancies and omissions in his narrative. For example, Marco Polo's failure to mention significant aspects of Chinese culture, such as the Great Wall, has fueled doubts about his travels. Yet, defenders argue that his perspective as a Venetian merchant, rather than a historian or ethnographer, explains these gaps. The publication of the Travels of Marco Polo marked a turning point in European literature and exploration. The book, dictated by Marco during his imprisonment in Genoa, became a sensation, inspiring generations of explorers. Figures like Christopher Columbus carried copies of Polo's accounts, using them as guides and sources of inspiration for their own voyages. In this way, Marco Polo's legacy transcended his lifetime, shaping the course of global exploration. Today, Marco Polo's life and work remain subjects of fascination and debate. His journey symbolizes the spirit of curiosity and the pursuit of knowledge, qualities that resonate across time and cultures. While questions about the veracity of his accounts persist, the impact of his story is undeniable. Marco Polo's ability to bridge worlds and document the unknown stands as a testament to the enduring power of exploration. In conclusion, Marco Polo's enigmatic life serves as a lens through which we can examine the intersection of history, geography, and human ambition. His journey was not merely a physical expedition, but an intellectual voyage that reshaped the way the world was understood. As we explore the chapters of his life, we gain insight into a man whose story continues to inspire and provoke centuries after his time. The story of Marco Polo's extraordinary journey to the East begins in Venice, a city whose identity was deeply intertwined with commerce and exploration. Born in 1254 into a family of affluent merchants, Marco grew up surrounded by the hustle and bustle of a city-state that thrived on maritime trade. Venice's strategic location at the crossroads of Europe and the East fostered a spirit of entrepreneurship and adventure, qualities that shaped Marco's early years and set the stage for his future travels. Marco Polo's family was integral to his path. His father, Niccolo Polo, and uncle, Maffeo Polo, were already seasoned merchants who had ventured into the distant lands of the Mongol Empire long before Marco's birth. These expeditions, driven by the lure of exotic goods and lucrative trade opportunities, established the Polo family as pioneers in forging connections with the East. Their success was a testament to Venice's role as a gateway for cultural and economic exchange during the 13th century. The young Marco's upbringing in this cosmopolitan environment provided him with a unique perspective. Venice was a melting pot of cultures, languages, and ideas, with traders from across Europe, the Byzantine Empire, and the Islamic world converging in its markets. Growing up in this vibrant setting likely instilled in Marco an appreciation for diversity and a curiosity about the unknown. These traits would later become defining aspects of his character as a traveler and chronicler. Despite his privileged background, Marco Polo's early years were marked by absence and separation. His father and uncle were away on their first journey to Asia when Marco was born, leaving him in the care of his mother and extended family. This formative experience of growing up without a paternal figure may have fostered resilience and independence in the young Marco. When his mother died during his childhood, Marco faced further upheaval, relying on relatives and the broader Venetian community for guidance. The Polo's first journey to the East proved to be a groundbreaking expedition. Niccolo and Maffeo traveled through the Black Sea, the Volga River, and the Central Asian steppes, eventually reaching the court of Kublai Khan, the Mongol emperor. Their meeting with the Khan was more than a mere trading venture. It was a diplomatic mission that laid the foundation for their return journey with Marco years later. The Khan's interest in Christianity and European technology made him eager to establish connections with the West. When Niccolo and Maffeo returned to Venice in 1269, they brought with them tales of distant lands and a request from Kublai Khan for emissaries to return with them to his court. By this time, Marco was a teenager, eager to embark on an adventure that promised not only material wealth, but also the chance to witness the wonders of the world. The prospect of joining his father and uncle on such a monumental journey must have been both daunting and exhilarating for the young Venetian. Marco's formal education in Venice likely included instruction in reading, writing, and arithmetic, skills essential for a merchant's life. Additionally, his exposure to the city's bustling trade likely acquainted him with basic navigation, an understanding of currencies, and knowledge of the commodities that flowed through Venetian markets. These practical skills would prove invaluable during his travels, allowing him to adapt to the diverse environments he encountered along the Silk Road. The decision for Marco to join his father and uncle on their second journey was not merely a family affair. It reflected the broader ambitions of Venice as a maritime power. The Polo family's ventures were emblematic of Venice's desire to expand its reach into the lucrative markets of the East. As emissaries of both their city and Kublai Khan, the Polos represented a unique bridge between two worlds, carrying the hopes of their fellow Venetians for new opportunities and alliances. In the context of the 13th century, Marco Polo's journey was exceptional. While long-distance trade was not uncommon, the extent of the Polo's travels and their direct engagement with the Mongol Empire set them apart. Most European traders relied on intermediaries to access goods from Asia, rarely venturing beyond the Middle East. Marco Polo's first-hand experiences in the heart of the Mongol Empire would later make his accounts unparalleled in their detail and scope. Marco's departure from Venice in 1271 marked the beginning of a journey that would take him farther than most Europeans had ever traveled. Leaving behind the familiar canals of his home city, Marco embarked on a path that would lead him through deserts, mountains, and uncharted territories. This bold step, taken at a young age, was the first chapter in a life that would forever alter the Western world's understanding of the East. In summary, Marco Polo's early life in Venice was shaped by the confluence of family legacy, cultural diversity, and the city's mercantile ambitions. These formative experiences laid the groundwork for his later adventures, equipping him with the skills and mindset necessary to navigate the complexities of the world beyond Europe. Marco's upbringing was not merely a prologue to his travels. It was an essential foundation that prepared him for the challenges and discoveries that lay ahead. In 1271, Marco Polo embarked on the journey that would define his legacy, setting out with his father, Niccolò, and uncle, Maffeo, toward the distant Mongol Empire. This journey was no ordinary undertaking. It was a calculated risk, a test of endurance, and a leap into the unknown. The Silk Road, the vast network of trade routes connecting Europe and Asia, would serve as the backbone of their expedition. Traversing this ancient corridor required not only courage, but also the ability to navigate diverse terrains, cultures, and political landscapes. The decision to embark on this journey was spurred by a request from Kublai Khan, the Mongol emperor. During their first visit, Niccolò and Maffeo had impressed the Khan, who asked them to return with Christian scholars and sacred oils from Jerusalem. While they were unable to secure the religious emissaries requested by the Khan, the Polos decided to honor his invitation, bringing Marco along to aid in their diplomatic and commercial mission. This marked the beginning of a journey that would last over 2 decades. The departure from Venice was a moment of both anticipation and apprehension. Marco, at just 17 years old, faced the daunting prospect of leaving behind the familiar comforts of his home city for an uncertain future. The Polos' route took them first to Acre, a key port in the Crusader-controlled Holy Land, where they sought blessings and provisions for their expedition. From there, they traveled to Jerusalem to fulfill Kublai Khan's request for holy oil, a symbolic gesture of goodwill toward the Mongol ruler. As they moved further east, the Polos encountered the first of many challenges: the rugged landscapes of the Middle East. Crossing the deserts of Persia tested their physical stamina and resourcefulness. The region's extreme temperatures, limited water supplies, and shifting political alliances required constant vigilance. Yet these hardships also exposed Marco to a world far removed from the Venetian canals, a world of caravans, oases, and ancient cities steeped in history. Marco's detailed observations of these regions would later form the backbone of his famous accounts. In Persia, he marveled at the ingenuity of irrigation systems and the vibrant trade networks that sustained cities like Yazd and Isfahan. He also noted the cultural diversity of the region, from the Zoroastrian fire temples to the bustling bazaars filled with merchants from distant lands. These experiences broadened Marco's understanding of the interconnectedness of the world, a theme that would resonate throughout his travels. Continuing along the Silk Road, the Polos reached the vast steppes of Central Asia. Here, the Mongol influence was unmistakable. The Pax Mongolica, a period of relative stability under Mongol rule, allowed for safer travel and facilitated trade across thousands of miles. Marco observed the efficiency of the Mongols' communication system, which utilized relay stations and swift couriers to maintain control over their sprawling empire. This system, known as the Yam, would later inspire similar innovations in Europe. Despite the relative safety provided by the Mongol Empire, the journey was not without peril. The Polos faced treacherous mountain passes such as those in the Pamirs, where altitude sickness, freezing temperatures, and avalanches posed constant threats. These challenges tested their resolve and resourcefulness, but they also provided Marco with unparalleled views of the natural beauty and geographical diversity of Asia. The young Venetians' curiosity and resilience grew stronger with each new obstacle. Cultural adaptation was another key element of their success. The Polos learned to communicate in multiple languages, adopted local customs, and forged alliances with regional leaders. Marco's ability to immerse himself in different cultures allowed him to gain insights that other Europeans lacked. His accounts of Central Asian societies, from their nomadic traditions to their political structures, offer valuable glimpses into a world that was both foreign and fascinating to his audience. After years of travel, the Polos finally arrived at the Mongol court, where they were welcomed by Kublai Khan. The journey to reach the emperor was arduous, but it also served as a transformative experience for Marco. Along the way, he had not only matured as a person, but also accumulated a wealth of knowledge about the diverse regions he had traversed. These observations would later inform his descriptions of the vast and complex world that lay beyond Europe. In conclusion, the Polos' journey eastward was far more than a physical expedition. It was an intellectual and cultural odyssey. The Silk Road served as both a literal and metaphorical bridge, connecting Marco Polo to the myriad peoples, landscapes, and ideas that defined his travels. This chapter of Marco's life exemplifies the spirit of exploration and adaptability that would become the hallmark of his legacy. Through perseverance and curiosity, the Polos transformed a perilous journey into a gateway to the unknown, setting the stage for Marco's legendary encounters with Kublai Khan and the wonders of the Mongol Empire. The arrival of Marco Polo and his family at the court of Kublai Khan marked a pivotal moment in their journey and in Marco's life. After years of grueling travel across the Silk Road, the Polos reached Xanadu, modern-day Inner Mongolia, the summer capital of the Mongol Empire. Here, they encountered Kublai Khan, a ruler of immense power and ambition who was equally curious about the world beyond his empire. The relationship that developed between the Polos and the Khan would have profound implications, not only for Marco's journey, but for the broader cultural exchange between East and West. Kublai Khan, the grandson of Genghis Khan, was a visionary leader who ruled over the vast and diverse territories of the Mongol Empire. By the time Marco Polo arrived at his court, Kublai Khan had established the Yuan dynasty, unifying China under Mongol rule. He was a patron of the arts, science, and diplomacy, embodying the qualities of a ruler who valued innovation and knowledge. The Polos, with their connections to Europe and their willingness to traverse great distances, intrigued the Khan and quickly earned his favor. Marco Polo's introduction to Kublai Khan was a moment of great significance. The young Venetian, only in his late teens or early 20s, stood before one of the most powerful rulers in history. The Khan's interest in the Polos stemmed from their ability to serve as emissaries between East and West, a role that aligned with his vision of creating a cosmopolitan and interconnected empire. The Polos, in turn, understood the importance of gaining the Khan's trust, as their survival and success depended on his goodwill. The relationship between Marco Polo and Kublai Khan deepened over time, largely due to Marco's linguistic and cultural adaptability. Marco reportedly learned several languages spoken within the empire, enabling him to communicate effectively with various officials and courtiers. His ability to adapt to the customs and etiquette of the Mongol court further endeared him to the Khan. Marco's unique perspective as a European also provided the Khan with valuable insights into the Western world, fostering a mutual exchange of knowledge. One of Marco Polo's most remarkable roles in Kublai Khan's court was that of an envoy. The Khan, recognizing Marco's intelligence and curiosity, entrusted him with missions to distant parts of the empire. These assignments allowed Marco to travel extensively, witnessing firsthand the diversity and complexity of the Mongol domains. From the bustling cities of China to the remote steppes of Central Asia, Marco observed and documented the customs, technologies, and governance structures that defined the regions under Mongol control. Marco's position in the Mongol court was both a privilege and a challenge. While he enjoyed the protection and patronage of Kublai Khan, he also had to navigate the intricacies of court politics. The Mongol court was a melting pot of cultures, with advisors and officials from various ethnic and religious backgrounds. Marco's ability to maintain the Khan's favor amidst this diverse and competitive environment speaks to his diplomatic skills and adaptability. The trust that Kublai Khan placed in Marco Polo is evident in the responsibilities he assigned him. According to Marco's accounts, the Khan sent him on missions to assess the empire's provinces, collect information about their resources, and report on their governance. These experiences not only broadened Marco's understanding of the empire, but also provided him with a wealth of material for his later writings. His detailed descriptions of places like Hangzhou, Xuanzhou, and the Grand Canal illustrate the depth of his observations. Kublai Khan's court was a center of innovation and cultural exchange, and Marco Polo's presence there placed him at the heart of this dynamic environment. The Khan's interest in science, engineering, and the arts led to the development of remarkable projects, such as the construction of cities and the expansion of infrastructure. Marco's accounts highlight the sophistication of Mongol administration, including the use of paper money, efficient postal systems, and advanced agricultural techniques. Despite the privileges he enjoyed, Marco Polo remained aware of the vast cultural differences between his homeland and the Mongol Empire. His writings reveal a mix of admiration and astonishment at the practices he encountered, from the grandeur of the Khan's palaces to the elaborate ceremonies of the Mongol court. These contrasts enriched Marco's perspective, allowing him to serve as a bridge between two worlds and to convey the complexities of the East to his European audience. In conclusion, Marco Polo's time at Kublai Khan's court was a transformative period in his life. His role as an envoy and observer provided him with unparalleled access to the inner workings of the Mongol Empire, shaping the detailed accounts that would later captivate readers across Europe. The mutual respect and trust between Marco and the Khan symbolized the potential for understanding and collaboration between cultures, even in an era marked by distance and difference. This chapter of Marco's journey underscores the importance of curiosity, adaptability, and diplomacy in forging connections across civilizations. Marco Polo's time in Kublai Khan's court was not confined to the palace walls. His position as a trusted envoy allowed him to explore the vast Mongol Empire, providing him with unique insights into one of the most powerful and diverse realms of his era. These travels, sanctioned and facilitated by the Khan, exposed Marco to an astonishing array of cultures, landscapes, and innovations, all of which he documented in meticulous detail. This chapter examines Marco Polo's exploration of the Mongol Empire, focusing on his observations, experiences, and the significance of his accounts. One of Marco Polo's most striking contributions lies in his vivid descriptions of the empire's urban centers. He marveled at the magnificence of Dadu, modern-day Beijing, the Yuan capital and the seat of Kublai Khan's power. Dadu was a marvel of urban planning, characterized by its broad streets, bustling markets, and intricate canals. The city's grandeur, Marco noted, was matched by its organization, a testament to the administrative acumen of the Mongol rulers. Marco's observations of Dadu provided a glimpse into a city that was both the political and cultural heart of the empire. Another city that captured Marco's attention was Hangzhou, located in southern China. Once the capital of the Song dynasty, Hangzhou was described by Marco as the finest and noblest city in the world. Its prosperity, fueled by commerce and agriculture, was evident in its vibrant marketplaces and sprawling tea plantations. Marco was particularly struck by the city's infrastructure, including its bridges, waterways, and sophisticated sewage systems, which he found far superior to those in Europe. Hangzhou's bustling activity underscored the economic vitality of the Yuan dynasty. Marco Polo's travels also brought him into contact with the Mongols' innovative use of technology and governance. One of the most remarkable systems he documented was the Postal Relay Network, or YAM, which allowed messages and goods to be transported swiftly across the empire. Relay stations, equipped with fresh horses and provisions, facilitated efficient communication, connecting the farthest reaches of the Mongol territories. Marco's accounts of this system revealed an empire that was not only vast, but also meticulously organized. In addition to infrastructure, Marco observed the Mongols' use of paper money, a revolutionary concept for Europeans at the time. Issued under Kublai Khan's authority, The paper currency was backed by the empire's wealth and accepted throughout its territories. Marco's descriptions of this monetary system reflected his admiration for the Khan's ability to standardize and control economic practices across such a vast and diverse realm. The use of paper money would later influence European financial systems, demonstrating the impact of Marco's observations. Marco Polo's journeys also exposed him to the cultural and religious diversity of the Mongol Empire. The empire's tolerance for different faiths, including Buddhism, Islam, Christianity, and traditional Mongol beliefs, stood in stark contrast to the religious conflicts that often plagued Europe. Marco noted the peaceful coexistence of these communities, attributing this harmony to the Mongols' pragmatic approach to governance. This pluralism left a lasting impression on Marco, who viewed it as a hallmark of the empire's strength and stability. The natural wonders of the Mongol Empire were another source of fascination for Marco Polo. From the towering peaks of the Himalayas to the vast deserts of Central Asia, the empire encompassed a breathtaking array of landscapes. Marco's accounts of these regions captured both their beauty and their challenges. He described the harsh conditions of the Gobi Desert, where travelers faced scorching heat and limited water, as well as the lush valleys of Yunnan, teeming with exotic flora and fauna. These descriptions highlighted Marco's keen eye for detail and his ability to convey the majesty of the natural world. Marco's role as an envoy also allowed him to interact with various provincial leaders and communities. He documented the governance structures of the regions he visited, noting the integration of local customs into the broader framework of Mongol rule. This approach, which combined central authority with local autonomy, impressed Marco as an effective means of maintaining control over such a diverse empire. His accounts emphasized the adaptability and pragmatism of Mongol governance. One of the most enduring aspects of Marco Polo's exploration was his ability to compare and contrast the Mongol Empire with Europe. His observations often highlighted the advancements of the East, from urban planning to agricultural practices. These comparisons challenged the Eurocentric worldview of his contemporaries, encouraging them to rethink their assumptions about civilization and progress. Marco's accounts served as a bridge, fostering a greater understanding of the East among European audiences. Finally, Marco's travels through the Mongol Empire revealed the interconnectedness of the medieval world. He documented the movement of goods, ideas, and people along the Silk Road, emphasizing the role of trade in shaping cultural exchange. From Chinese silk to Persian carpets, the commodities that flowed through the empire symbolized the blending of diverse traditions and technologies. Marco's recognition of these connections underscored his understanding of the global dimensions of the Mongol Empire. In conclusion, Marco Polo's exploration of the Mongol Empire was a journey of discovery and documentation. His observations provided a detailed and nuanced portrait of a realm that was both vast and cohesive, advanced yet deeply rooted in tradition. Through his travels, Marco not only expanded his own horizons, but also brought the wonders of the East to the attention of Europe, paving the way for future exchanges between the two worlds. This chapter of his life exemplifies the transformative power of exploration and the enduring value of cross-cultural understanding. As Marco Polo traveled deeper into the heart of the Mongol Empire, he was captivated by the marvels of China. This vast and diverse land, governed by Kublai Khan, offered a level of sophistication, innovation, and prosperity that far exceeded anything Marco had encountered in Europe. From its bustling cities to its fertile countryside, China left an indelible mark on Marco's imagination, and his detailed accounts would later reshape Western perceptions of the East. This chapter delves into Marco Polo's observations of China, focusing on its cities, economy, technologies, and cultural practices. One of Marco's most celebrated descriptions is of the city of Hangzhou, a former Song dynasty capital that Marco referred to as the finest and noblest city in the world. Hangzhou, known for its stunning natural scenery and advanced infrastructure, epitomized the wealth and grandeur of southern China. Marco marveled at its markets, which were filled with an array of goods from silk and porcelain to spices and exotic foods. The city's Grand Canal, a marvel of engineering, facilitated the transport of goods and people, further contributing to its prosperity. Beijing, or Dadu as it was called under Kublai Khan, was another city that amazed Marco Polo. As the political and administrative center of the Yuan dynasty, Beijing showcased the Mongol Empire's emphasis on governance and organization. Marco described the city's broad streets, its impressive palace complex, and its carefully planned layout. He noted the presence of scholars, craftsmen, and merchants from across the empire, highlighting the cosmopolitan nature of Kublai Khan's court. China's economy was another aspect that deeply impressed Marco. The use of paper money, a practice initiated under earlier Chinese dynasties and perfected by the Mongols, stood out as a groundbreaking innovation. Marco documented how this currency, backed by the authority of the state, facilitated trade across the vast empire. The efficiency and stability of this system contrasted sharply with the fragmented and coin-based economies of Europe. Marco's accounts of paper money would later intrigue and inspire European readers, many of whom struggled to imagine a currency without intrinsic value. In addition to its economic innovations, China's technological advancements fascinated Marco Polo. He described the production of silk, an industry that employed thousands of workers and produced some of the world's most coveted textiles. Marco also documented the manufacture of porcelain, marveling at the artistry and craftsmanship required to create these delicate and durable objects. The techniques and products he encountered were unlike anything available in Europe at the time, underscoring China's technological superiority. The agricultural productivity of China also stood out to Marco. He observed the extensive use of irrigation systems, which supported the cultivation of rice, a staple crop that sustained the empire's large population. Marco noted the careful management of water resources and the ingenious methods used to maximize agricultural output. This level of efficiency was a stark contrast to the more rudimentary farming practices in medieval Europe, where yields were often limited by a lack of technological innovation. Marco Polo's observations extended to China's cultural and social practices. He noted the elaborate rituals and ceremonies associated with the Mongol court, including feasts and festivals that showcased the empire's wealth and diversity. Marco was particularly struck by the hospitality and generosity of the Chinese people, as well as their emphasis on education and knowledge. He described schools, libraries, and scholarly traditions that emphasized the importance of learning, a value that resonated with his own intellectual curiosity. Religion was another area of interest for Marco. While the Mongol rulers practiced traditional shamanistic beliefs, they were remarkably tolerant of other religions, including Buddhism, Islam, and Christianity. Marco documented the coexistence of these faiths, noting the presence of temples, mosques, and churches throughout the empire. This religious pluralism, which contrasted sharply with the sectarian conflicts of Europe, left a lasting impression on Marco and shaped his understanding of governance and society. The natural wonders of China further enriched Marco Polo's experiences. From the towering peaks of the Himalayas to the fertile plains of the Yangtze River, the diversity of China's landscapes amazed him. Marco described the abundance of natural resources, including precious metals, gemstones, and medicinal plants. These observations not only emphasized the wealth of China, but also revealed Marco's appreciation for the interconnectedness of human society and the natural world. In conclusion, Marco Polo's experiences in China provided him with a profound understanding of a civilization that was both advanced and dynamic. His detailed accounts of cities, technologies, and cultural practices painted a vivid picture of a society that far surpassed contemporary Europe in many respects. Marco's observations challenged Eurocentric assumptions and expanded the horizons of his readers, offering them a glimpse into a world of innovation, prosperity, and diversity. Through his writings, Marco Polo became not just a chronicler of his travels, but also a bridge between East and West, fostering a deeper appreciation of the richness and complexity of Chinese civilization. Marco Polo's time in the Mongol Empire was not limited to observation. He actively participated in its functioning as an envoy for Kublai Khan. The Venetians' adaptability, intelligence, and keen observational skills made him an invaluable asset to the Khan, who entrusted him with important diplomatic and administrative missions. These assignments not only deepened Marco's understanding of the empire, but also solidified his position within the court. This chapter explores Marco Polo's role as an emissary, examining the nature of his missions and the impact they had on his later writings. Kublai Khan's decision to involve Marco Polo in his administrative affairs was a testament to his trust in the young Venetian. Marco's ability to communicate in several languages, including Persian, Mongolian, and various dialects spoken across the empire, made him a natural choice for diplomatic assignments. Additionally, his Western background provided the Khan with a unique perspective on matters involving foreign relations, trade, and governance. One of Marco Polo's key responsibilities was to travel to distant provinces of the Mongol Empire and report back on their governance and economic conditions. These missions required him to assess the efficiency of local administrators, the collection of taxes, and the overall stability of the regions. Marco's detailed accounts of these journeys reveal a sophisticated understanding of governance and a deep respect for the administrative systems established by the Mongols. Marco's travels often took him to remote and challenging locations, including the mountainous regions of Tibet and the deserts of Central Asia. These journeys tested his endurance and resourcefulness, but they also allowed him to witness the incredible diversity of the Mongol Empire. From the nomadic herders of the steppes to the cosmopolitan merchants of the Silk Road, Marco encountered a wide range of peoples and cultures, each contributing to the empire's complexity. One of the most remarkable aspects of Marco's role as an envoy was his ability to document the customs, traditions, and technologies of the regions he visited. He provided detailed descriptions of agricultural practices, trade networks, and local industries, offering a comprehensive picture of the empire's economic vitality. His accounts of regions such as Yunnan and Sichuan, for example, highlighted their unique contributions to the Mongol economy, including the production of salt, tea, and other valuable commodities. Marco's missions also involved interactions with local leaders and dignitaries. His diplomatic skills were put to the test as he negotiated alliances, resolved disputes, and conveyed the Khan's directives. These interactions required a deep understanding of cultural nuances and a careful balance of authority and tact. Marco's success in these endeavors demonstrated his ability to adapt to unfamiliar environments and build relationships across cultural boundaries. One particularly notable mission took Marco to the coastal regions of southern China, where he observed the flourishing maritime trade. He documented the construction of large ocean-going ships, the organization of harbors, and the vibrant exchange of goods such as spices, textiles, and precious stones. Marco's accounts of the Chinese shipping industry highlighted its advanced technology and strategic importance, underscoring the empire's global reach. Marco's role as an envoy also brought him into contact with regions beyond the Mongol Empire. According to his accounts, he traveled as far as Southeast Asia and India, where he observed the vibrant cultures and economies of these regions. He described the tropical landscapes, the wealth of natural resources, and the complex trade networks that connected the Indian Ocean to the rest of the world. These experiences further expanded Marco's worldview and enriched his later writings. Despite the challenges and risks associated with his missions, Marco Polo demonstrated unwavering loyalty to Kublai Khan. His accounts reveal a deep admiration for the Khan's leadership and vision, as well as a recognition of the opportunities that his service provided. Marco's role as an emissary allowed him to gain unparalleled insights into the workings of the Mongol Empire, insights that would later captivate and educate audiences in Europe. In conclusion, Marco Polo's role as a trusted envoy for Kublai Khan was a defining aspect of his time in the Mongol Empire. His diplomatic missions provided him with a unique perspective on the empire's governance, economy, and cultural diversity, while also challenging him to navigate the complexities of a vast and dynamic realm. Through his service, Marco not only deepened his understanding of the world, but also laid the foundation for the detailed and influential accounts that would secure his place in history. This chapter of Marco's life exemplifies the transformative power of active engagement in cross-cultural exchange, highlighting the value of curiosity, adaptability, and diplomacy. Marco Polo's years of service to Kublai Khan, while marked by adventure and learning, were not without challenges. As time passed, the pressures of political unrest, personal longing for home, and the inevitable changes in the Mongol Empire began to shape Marco's perspective. This chapter examines the latter part of Marco's time in the East, the challenges he faced, and the eventual decision to return to Venice. It also reflects on the enduring legacy of his service and the profound impact it had on his understanding of the world. By the time Marco Polo had spent nearly 2 decades in Kublai Khan's court, the Mongol Empire was beginning to show signs of strain. Kublai Khan, once a vigorous and innovative ruler, was aging. His later years were marked by increasing isolation and political difficulties, including uprisings in various provinces and challenges from rival factions within his own court. These tensions inevitably influenced Marco's experience, as the once stable empire grew more uncertain. For Marco, the political unrest posed both personal and professional challenges. As an envoy, he continued to undertake missions, but the growing instability made travel more dangerous. Marco's accounts suggest a sense of disillusionment with the changes he witnessed. The grandeur of the Mongol Empire, which had initially filled him with awe, now seemed overshadowed by the difficulties of maintaining such a vast and diverse realm. In addition to political unrest, Marco faced personal challenges. After decades away from Venice, he began to feel the pull of home. His father, Niccolò, and uncle, Maffeo, also yearned to return to their native land. Their service to Kublai Khan had brought them wealth and prestige, but the separation from their families and homeland weighed heavily on them. Marco's writings convey a sense of homesickness, a longing for the familiar landscapes and customs of Europe. Despite their desire to leave, the Polos found it difficult to secure the Khan's permission to depart. Kublai Khan had grown deeply attached to them, particularly to Marco, whom he regarded as a trusted advisor and emissary. The Khan's reluctance to let them go speaks to the value he placed on their service, but it also highlights the challenges of balancing loyalty to a patron with personal needs and aspirations. The opportunity for the Polos to leave finally arose when Kublai Khan sought to send a princess to Persia for a diplomatic marriage. Recognizing the dangers of overland travel, the Khan decided to send the princess by sea, and he entrusted the Polos to accompany her as part of the mission. This decision not only provided the Polos with a legitimate reason to depart, but also demonstrated the high regard in which they were held by the Khan. The journey back to Venice was fraught with difficulties. Traveling by sea, the Polos encountered storms, pirates, and disease, challenges that tested their resilience and determination. The voyage, which lasted several years, was a stark contrast to the relative stability they had experienced in Kublai Khan's court. Nevertheless, their knowledge of navigation and diplomacy proved invaluable, enabling them to complete the mission and eventually make their way back to Europe. When Marco Polo finally returned to Venice in 1295, he found a city that had changed significantly during his absence. The once prosperous merchant had to rebuild his life and reintegrate into Venetian society. His experiences in the East set him apart from his contemporaries, earning him both admiration and skepticism. Many found his tales of the Mongol Empire and its wonders difficult to believe, dismissing them as exaggerations or fabrications. Despite these challenges, Marco Polo's return to Venice marked the beginning of his enduring legacy. His decision to document his travels, dictated to the writer Rusticolo de Piso while imprisoned during a conflict between Venice and Genoa, ensured that his experiences would reach a wide audience. The resulting book, The Travels of Marco Polo, became a seminal work, inspiring explorers, traders, and scholars for centuries. In conclusion, the end of Marco Polo's service to Kublai Khan and his eventual return to Venice represent a culmination of his extraordinary journey. The challenges he faced, both personal and political, underscored the complexities of navigating a world defined by vast distances and cultural differences. Yet, these very challenges enriched his perspective and enabled him to share a vision of the East that would captivate and educate generations to come. Marco's legacy is a testament to the transformative power of travel, the resilience required to overcome adversity, and the enduring value of cross-cultural exchange. Marco Polo's return to Venice and the subsequent publication of his travels marked a turning point in the Western world's perception of the East. While his accounts of the Mongol Empire and China were lauded by some, they were met with skepticism by others. Over time, the line between myth and reality in Marco Polo's narratives became increasingly blurred. This chapter explores the impact of the travels of Marco Polo on European thought and its role in shaping perceptions of the East. It also examines the ways in which Marco's accounts influenced both historical and modern understanding of the Mongol Empire and its legacy. When the travels of Marco Polo was first circulated in Europe, it was met with a mixture of awe and incredulity. The book was filled with vivid descriptions of exotic lands, strange customs, and seemingly miraculous feats, including Kublai Khan's use of paper money, the grandeur of Chinese cities, and the vastness of the Mongol Empire. Many readers were fascinated by the world Marco Polo described, which was unlike anything they could imagine from their own limited experiences. However, others found it difficult to believe the seemingly fantastical nature of some of Marco's stories. One of the most debated aspects of Marco Polo's accounts is the question of whether he truly experienced everything he described or whether he relied on secondhand sources. Critics have argued that some of the more extravagant elements of his stories, such as the wealth and grandeur of Kublai Khan's court, were either exaggerated or borrowed from the accounts of other travelers. Additionally, some scholars have pointed out that Marco never mentioned certain key details about China that would have been familiar to any traveler who spent years in the region, such as the use of chopsticks or tea. Despite these criticisms, Marco Polo's accounts had an undeniable influence on European exploration and trade. His descriptions of the Silk Road, the Mongol postal system, and the wealth of the East sparked the imaginations of European merchants, adventurers, and intellectuals. The book served as a catalyst for the age of exploration, inspiring figures such as Christopher Columbus, who carried a copy of Marco Polo's book with him during his voyages to the New World. In this way, Marco Polo's accounts helped shape the trajectory of European exploration for centuries to come. Beyond inspiring exploration, Marco Polo's work contributed to the broader development of Western knowledge about the East. In the centuries following its publication, the travels of Marco Polo became a key text for scholars seeking to understand the geography, culture, and economy of the Mongol Empire in China. Marco's detailed descriptions of the cities he visited, the goods he encountered, and the technologies he observed provided valuable insights for future generations. His accounts helped Europeans begin to conceptualize the vastness and complexity of the world beyond their own borders. Marco Polo's influence extended beyond exploration and scholarship. It also played a role in shaping the cultural exchange between East and West. Through his descriptions, Europeans became more aware of the riches and sophistication of Eastern civilizations. Marco's accounts of Chinese inventions, such as gunpowder, paper, and printing, introduced these innovations to the West long before they would arrive through trade routes. His work, in a sense, acted as a bridge for the transfer of knowledge and technology, accelerating the process of cultural exchange that would have profound implications in the centuries to follow. However, the myth of Marco Polo's travels also played a role in shaping the Western imagination. Over time, the story of Marco's journey to the court of Kublai Khan became enshrined in popular culture as a tale of adventure and discovery. His name became synonymous with exoticism and adventure, and his accounts were often embellished with additional layers of intrigue. As a result, Marco Polo's journey was both a real historical event and a legendary narrative that continued to captivate audiences. The blending of fact and myth made his story more enduring, allowing it to transcend historical accuracy and enter the realm of popular legend. The myths surrounding Marco Polo's travels also reflected broader European attitudes toward the East. For many, the world that Marco Polo described was a place of wonder and mystery, both alluring and distant. The idea of a distant empire ruled by a powerful and benevolent Khan, surrounded by untold riches, became a symbol of the unknown and the extraordinary. As the Mongol Empire began to decline in the centuries after Marco Polo's journey, the East continued to be viewed through this romanticized lens, which shaped Western attitudes toward Asia for generations. In modern times, Marco Polo's accounts continue to be read and studied, but they are often examined with a more critical eye. Historians and scholars have increasingly sought to separate the myth from the reality of Marco's travels, using modern research and archaeological evidence to corroborate or challenge his descriptions. While some of Marco's observations have been shown to be accurate, others have been debunked or reinterpreted in light of new findings. Despite this, Marco Polo's legacy as a cultural intermediary between East and West remains unchallenged. His accounts, whether entirely factual or not, were a key part of the process by which the Western world came to understand the East. In conclusion, the impact of Marco Polo's accounts cannot be overstated. Whether fully accurate or partially mythologized, his writings profoundly influenced the way Europeans viewed the East and contributed to the development of cross-cultural exchange. Marco Polo's legacy is a testament to the power of storytelling, the complexities of historical memory, and the enduring curiosity that drives exploration. His travels sparked a fascination with the East that would shape European history for centuries, leaving an indelible mark on the intellectual and cultural landscape of the Western world. Marco Polo's life and travels have left an indelible mark on history, particularly in the realms of global trade, exploration, and cultural exchange. While the veracity of his accounts has been debated for centuries, the long-term impact of his work is undeniable. Through his extensive travels and interactions with the Mongol Empire, Marco Polo not only helped to shape the Western understanding of the East, but also played a significant role in fostering the connections that would lay the groundwork for the modern world. This final chapter explores the lasting legacy of Marco Polo, examining how his life and writings influenced subsequent generations and contributed to the transformation of global trade and exploration. The most immediate consequence of Marco Polo's travels was the heightened interest in the East that his writings generated. The Travels of Marco Polo became one of the most influential books in Europe during the Middle Ages and the Renaissance. The vivid descriptions of the riches and wonders of the Mongol Empire, as well as the technological advancements in China, inspired generations of Europeans to seek out these distant lands. Marco's accounts were not simply about exploration for exploration's sake. They served as a roadmap for merchants, traders, and explorers looking to tap into the vast economic potential of Asia. One of the most profound effects of Marco Polo's work was the way it influenced European trade. His descriptions of the Silk Road and the commodities traded along it, silk, spices, porcelain, and precious metals, created a vision of wealth and opportunity for European traders. Marco's accounts sparked an increase in trade with the East, which ultimately contributed to the expansion of European commerce and the growth of cities involved in international trade. The idea of connecting Europe to Asia through land routes became a major driving force for future explorers, most notably Christopher Columbus, whose voyages to the New World were partly motivated by the desire to find a sea route to the riches of Asia. Marco Polo's travels also played a critical role in the development of the Age of Exploration. Columbus, Vasco da Gama, and other prominent explorers of the late 15th and early 16th centuries were directly influenced by the accounts of Polo's journey. Columbus, in particular, was inspired by the idea of reaching the East by sea, and he relied on the travels of Marco Polo for much of his understanding of the geography and wealth of Asia. The book helped to shape the European perception of the East as a land of immense riches, leading to a flurry of exploration in the following centuries. In this way, Marco Polo's legacy was woven into the very fabric of global exploration. Beyond trade and exploration, Marco Polo's writings contributed significantly to cultural exchange between the East and the West. His descriptions of Chinese culture, customs, and technologies introduced Europe to new ideas and practices that would have a lasting impact. Innovations such as the use of paper money, the practice of printing, and the cultivation of rice were brought to European attention through Polo's accounts, sparking curiosity and, in some cases, early attempts at imitation. The diffusion of knowledge between these two great civilizations helped foster a broader understanding of global interconnectivity that laid the groundwork for the modern world. The impact of Marco Polo's legacy extends beyond the realm of exploration and trade into the world of science and intellectual history. By offering detailed descriptions of Eastern technology, geography, and medicine, Polo's writings became an important source of knowledge for Renaissance scholars. His accounts influenced not only explorers and merchants but also mathematicians, cartographers, and naturalists who were keen to map and understand the world. Polo's reports provided one of the first comprehensive accounts of the geography of the Mongol Empire in Asia, which helped improve European maps and expand their knowledge of the world beyond their borders. In the centuries that followed, the figure of Marco Polo took on a symbolic importance in European culture. His travels, whether entirely factual or embellished, became a metaphor for the spirit of adventure, curiosity, and discovery that drove the Renaissance and later periods of exploration. Polo became an archetype of the explorer, embodying the fascination with distant lands and the quest for knowledge. His story was repeated and expanded upon in literature, art, and culture, cementing his place in the Western imagination as a legendary figure. However, it is important to note that Marco Polo's legacy is not without its complexities. As the centuries passed, the truth of his accounts was questioned, and many have argued that his descriptions were exaggerated or even fabricated. Some suggest that Marco Polo may not have traveled as extensively as he claimed, while others propose that he relied on the stories of other travelers and sources rather than first-hand experience. Yet, regardless of the factual accuracy of his accounts, the cultural and historical significance of his work cannot be denied. His stories helped to shape the imagination of the West and catalyze developments that have shaped the world into what it is today. In more recent years, scholars have sought to reconsider Marco Polo's role in history. While acknowledging the myths and embellishments that have grown around his story, historians have also emphasized the value of his observations about the cultures, peoples, and technologies of the East. His legacy, far from being merely the product of legend, is rooted in the broader historical context of East-West exchange. Marco Polo was, after all, a product of his time, a time when the world was expanding and the boundaries between East and West were beginning to dissolve. His writings represented not only an individual's journey, but also a significant moment in the larger narrative of human exploration and cultural interaction. In conclusion, Marco Polo's impact on history is multifaceted and enduring. His travels helped to open up the East to the West, driving trade, inspiring exploration, and fostering cultural exchange. Whether or not all of his accounts were entirely accurate, the long-term influence of his writings is undeniable. Marco Polo's legacy is a testament to the power of storytelling, the spirit of adventure, and the importance of cross-cultural exchange in shaping the modern world. His journey remains a landmark in the history of global connections, and his story continues to captivate audiences, inviting future generations to explore the wonders of the world with the same curiosity and wonder that defined his own remarkable life.